Welcome, pilots of the virtual skies. Today is a day for eye candy. What I want to do today is to fly from an Orbix Payware Airport, Santa Barbara Municipal Airport, up the California coast and into San Francisco. Not too much unique in that, except for the eye candy of the departure airport. But I also want to throw in a full winter storm. When's the last time Northern California, central to Northern California, had a full winter storm? So we'll take a look and see what that looks like using Rex Weatherforce 2020. It's just a recent add-on for me, but I'm sure enjoying it. Okay, air traffic control options for our A320 Airbus aircraft. We're not Charlie 747 SP. That's a Canadian registry. We're actually November 747 SP. In real life, I actually trained on a Cessna 172 that had the registration November 747 SP, and I was able to honestly tell my friends that I flew a 747. Anyway, so I often use that registration. But here we are, Airbus A320, and we're using the A32NX variant mod, which gives a whole lot more reality to this plane. Makes it just a joy to fly. We are departing from Kilo SBA Sierra Bravo Alpha. Not too many gates at this airport. This is a regional airport, so gates are few and far between. There we go, gate 4A. Not going to put in any arrival information. We're going to do all that through the McDo. I will check out our presets. Group is off. Only other traffic is artificial. Presets are set. Preset weather, which is going to be clear skies. Very early in the morning. Like maybe 6:15 in the morning or so. Really, 6:08. 6:08 is a good time in the morning. You know, I actually prefer to take off, at least start the pre-flight in darkness, as long as I know there's daylight coming for most of the flight. And again, it's all about that immersion element. So I think we are set, and we'll hit the fly button. Couple of add-ons today. I mentioned Weatherforce 2020. I also want to add in 2 FS2 Crew products, Flight Crew for the A320 aircraft. This will give me a virtual first officer to handle the radios and do some realistic checks. And also Pushback Express, which gives a realistic pushback experience and also adds some ground elements into the whole experience. I will not be using my favorite Pilot to ATC air traffic control program. It's wonderful for flight planning. It really is the second best type of ATC next to a live controller. But what I thought I'd do today is work with the default air traffic control. And one of the failings of Pilot to ATC is it doesn't recognize the airplanes around you. And I'm kind of looking for the air traffic control to interact with me and also with other aircraft. So here we are, cold and dark, and it's going to get a whole lot colder and a whole lot snowier as we bring on a winter storm, thanks to Weatherforce. Whoa, let's not get dizzy. Woo, I got a little dizzy there. Here we are. First thing I need to do is to set up a bridge between the flight simulator and some of the add-ons. So I'm going to start up FSUIPC. Those folks who are longtime simmers know that FSUIPC is It comes with a small fee, there's a cost to it, but it allows so much flexibility in adding on external programs. How about adding some external power? And we'll get the jet bridge attached. And how about some baggage? I'm going to go to Dynamic Weather Presets, choose Winter Storm, start Weather Synthesis, and here it comes. Let's hop aboard.
Let's start setting up.
Okay.
Hi, it's Andy at L1. How can I help you?
Just to let you know, we're going to be arriving a bit early.
Thanks for letting me know.
Before I get power on the airplane, I'd like to turn on these rheostat switches, because I only had use of this flashlight before I touched that external power knob. As soon as I touch the external power knob or the battery knob, I lose the flashlight. And I find the flashlight's really helpful for getting the initial light up. Otherwise, you're stumbling around in the dark. So do that first. And then I can hit external power is available. I'm going to use it. Battery switches to on. Let's let folks around the outside of the airplane know that we're here. Strobes to auto. Beacon to on. Nav light to 1 or 2. They're redundant, so it doesn't matter which one. Emergency exit lights to arm. Let's get the climate up to snuff, both here in the cockpit and also in the cabins. Warm things up a bit. And start the IRS system, the inertial reference system, here on the Airbus known as the ADIRS. Get that nav aligned. We will do a fire test on the APU and a cargo smoke test in the cargo bay, and that will be fine for right now. I have a virtual first officer. She's outside doing the ground checks. While she's doing that, we might as well do some flight planning in here. Let's go to our McDo menu and go to ATSU, go to AOC menu, and let's do a weather request. I want to request a METAR, meteorological, I used to remember what all these acronyms stood for, but I don't remember anymore. Anyway, KSBA Sierra Bravo Alpha is our departure airport. Our arrival is SFO, good old San Francisco, City by the Bay. And we have an alternate of Sacramento, Sierra Alpha Charlie. So I'm going to ask for METARs for all three of those. Then I'm also going to ask for a TAF. A TAF is a Terminal Aerodrome Forecast. So this isn't real weather. This is forecasted weather. And on a short flight like this, it really shouldn't matter too much. But you know, you get in the habit of asking for every weather product known to man. That's actually a good thing. I don't want the information to go to a printer. I want it to come straight to my McDo. So I'm going to select McDo, put in our departure airport, and I'm going to request, first of all, it's queued to arrival. We'll push send, and then we'll queue it to departure. We'll push send. We'll queue it to en route. We'll push send, and it will take a little time for those reports to be generated. Meanwhile, let's go to our SimBrief and our takeoff calculator. SimBrief is going to do most of the work here. And one of the great things about the new mod is that as you're building your flight plan, you don't have to remember a lot of what you've put into the SimBrief, because it will be data imported directly into the aircraft. So let's create a new flight. We are United Airlines flight number 43. We are departing Santa Barbara. We're going to arrive at the City by the Bay. With I don't know where SMF is, but our alternate is going to be Sacramento. I just recently downloaded this better, it's a file for SimBrief, which more accurately represents the Neo mod, or the A32NX mod. So hopefully that'll give us better numbers. Departure runway. Okay, I'll leave it at, actually, let's do this. Let's see if we have our weather information yet. Let's go under received messages. Okay, we got some received messages. ATIS. I'm not sure if I can. I'm not sure about looking at that. ATIS not available. That's Santa Barbara. Here's our TAF, Terminal Area Forecast. Forecasted to be winds 130 at 5, partial visibility is 6 miles, 6 statute miles, few clouds at 6,000, overcast at 9,000, from to, oh goodness, I remember to read how to read these. Oh goodness, that's a timestamp. Then it changes to 250 at 7, visibility at 6 statute miles, overcast 1,500. Basically what it's saying is very low clouds. Variable 3-knot wind, so not much wind, but low ceilings. So that's informative, but a METAR is actually better. Here's a METAR. This is actual weather. Wind 230 at 9, 10 statute mile visibility, few clouds at 1,200, scattered at 12, flight level 120. Temperature 16, dew point 12, altimeter 2, 2. So what we want from that is the wind at 230 at 9, which is going to make runway 25 our preferred runway. So let's go to departure runway 25. I'm not so concerned about the arrival runway. That will be assigned when we get there. I want to go up to my preferences and make sure that this is all in kilograms. And 1.1 extra fuel in kilograms. Altitude. East is odd, west is even. We're going to be flying slightly east, mostly north actually. Most of our flight is north, but a little bit of an easterly component. So I'm going to give it a 270 flight level. Zero fuel rate, auto. Okay. We'll calculate this mostly for the fuel, and then we'll let the calculator worry about the load. So the routing is Gouch 1 to Mike, Quebec, MQO, whatever the hell O is. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to say hell. Then Surfer and Surfer 3. That route is fine. And just take a look at it to make sure there are no major surprises. So you can see, actually, we're flying more westerly, which would mean an even flight number. This should be flight number 260. East is least and west is best, or I'm not sure what the old saying is, but flying west, even thousands, flying east, odd thousands, and then VFR flight is add or subtract our 500-mile increment. So all of that is good. Let's generate an operational flight plan. And what I'm looking out of mostly for this is my bulk fuel. My bulk fuel is really going to affect my weight and balance. So 6780 on the bulk fuel. So let's come over here to the flight calculator. Weight and balance. Let's calculate a 168 configuration. It's a low seat configuration. The runways at Santa Barbara are very short. I believe they're only about 18,000 feet long. We'll find that out in just a second. So I want to have a low load and not go beyond the runway capacity. Low passengers, low baggage, no cargo. Block fuel, 6780.
Hi, security and safety check are all done. Are we good to start boarding?
Yes, you can start boarding.
Okay.
Okay, passengers will start to board. Let's put in 6780. So let's one of my failings is being able to read this envelope chart. I know that we want to be within the envelope, but I know we want to keep our center of gravity below that blue line. So I'm trusting that that is correct. We'll go to the takeoff data. We're going to select a runway 25. Oh, we got to select the airport. Kilo Sierra Bravo Alpha. You can see our elevation is only 13 feet above sea level. We're really down in the dirt. Runway 25. Outside air temperature, according to our METAR, is 16. QNH is 2992. Oh my goodness, hope I didn't lose everything. I think I may have 16,290. 29.92. KSBA, runway 25. Let's go back to the weight and balance. All this was zeroed out. Okay. Our destination is KSFO. Passenger demand is low, no cargo. Let's block fuel was 6780. And let's generate a trip. Okay, stabilizer trim is 0.10 up. That's actually very shallow, which means we're well into the our center of gravity is well into the flight envelope. We won't have to worry about that. The biggest things to get from this calculator are the stabilizer trim and the flex temp. We're going to get the flex temp here in just a bit. Used to be you'd also want these V numbers, but thankfully, thanks to the ability to minimum runway length for flaps 1 is 2,000 meters. Okay, I agree. There's nothing wrong with that. Let's go do a flaps 2. Remember, we only have, here's where you get the runway length. So runway 25 has a takeoff runway of 1845. And I believe flaps 2 will give us about 1,500, so it'll be close. Yeah, it's close. Flaps 2 setting allows 1,500 feet takeoff run, and we only have 1845 to work with. But we're okay. Here we have some V speeds, and as I mentioned, now that we're able to incorporate SimBrief into the McDo directly, those V speeds aren't as critical as they were. But what you really want is this flex temp and the stabilizer trim. So we'll put this calculator off to the side. We will go into the McDo, get out of these messages, perform weight and balance. We're going to ask for our operational flight plan request. And now the numbers have come in. You can see we have 170 passengers. There's our zero fuel weight center of gravity. There's our zero fuel weight. You can tell the forward baggage, rear baggage. And if I go back to the AOC menu and go back one more, you can not only, okay, here's the data link, and this is how the information is coming in. We don't have a SATCOM installed. We're not getting it over high frequency. We are getting it over regular VHF radio, and we have a data link. So in that data link, there's two types of transmissions. There's the AOC, which we have been using for weather and ATIS and weight and balance and messages. And we can, I haven't figured it out yet, but there is a way of text messaging people. And then the other thing is to talk to air traffic control. Now normally we would do that with the radio, but if you lost your radio, you could declare an emergency, you could do a position report. Airplanes are required to make position reports. So this can all be done to air traffic control using the McDo and instead of the radio. So all wonderful. Let's go and do our initial setup. So we'll come to the aircraft status screen. We'll check to make sure our engines are correct, make sure we have a good database for our navigation. We do have a secondary database, even though that's expired. Then we'll go to our initialization page. We'll type in our departure airport along with our destination. And if it doesn't take right away, this is a problem I've noticed here lately, is it might not take right away. No, it didn't take right away. That's okay, we'll just do it again. I've never had it not take on a second try. There it goes. So it's in there. Alternate is Sacramento. Cost index is going to be pretty high. Not very efficient today. Cruise altitude, we were flying, I forget what cruise altitude we said. What did we put in there? Well, I'm going to put in 2270. And if that's wrong, I'll come back to this page. Correct that. Let's go to our second page. Now here, remember that we're getting our information from our flight plan, so that should not have changed. Then we do our fuel planning. We'll confirm our block fuel. It's 1.1. And then we have the extra for our taxi, and our extras bring it up to 1.4. So let's go to our fuel page, and there's our fuel on board, 994.60. What we need to do is to go to the McDo Atsu, AOC, weight and balance, and then push the load button for the fuel, and that will load our plane. That is how we just loaded our plane. And then we also want to do that for the okay, that's the refuel. And then we also want to come back here to the second page, and we want to load our payload. Okay, so be sure to hit that load payload and load fuel, and that'll bring you up where you need to be. Okay. Let's get our clearance.
Clearly delivery United 43 INR to San Francisco. Ready to copy.
United 423, clear via San Francisco Airport as well. Takeoff rate 2555, maintain 8,000 feet. Departure frequency is 120.5551.
United 43, clear to San Francisco Airport as filed. Takeoff runway 259 and maintain 8,000 feet. Departure on 110.5, flight squawk 5431.
United 423, that's correct. Contact around 121.7 taxi.
Hi guys, here's the load sheet for you.
Thanks.
No problem, have a safe flight.
Now that we have the load sheet, we can lock the cabin door. Shouldn't have any more visitors from this point forward. Let's move the speed brakes into the armed position. Let's select maximum braking. Let's get the APU started.
Bring it to the boarding door. We will check it for you. Also review the safety instruction card in your seat pocket.
I'm going to do a fire test on the engines.
Also review the exit seating criteria.
Turn on the fuel pumps. And Select cruise supply oxygen to on. Okay. Let's go to the APU page. It's going to be firing up here pretty quick. Now that we have our first officer back from doing her walk around, let's do our pre-flight.
Before start checklist.
Cockpit prep.
Completed.
Completed. Gear pins and covers.
Removed.
Signs.
On and auto.
Adheres.
Nav.
Fuel quantity.
Set.
Takeoff data.
Set.
Barrel rest.
2992. Set.
2992. Set. Down to the line.
We want to make sure we get our seatbelt sign on, our no smoking sign on. I'm going to talk to the ground controller and make sure he's ready with our pushback. Flight deck to ground.
Go ahead, flight deck.
We will be ready shortly.
Okay, I will hold.
Confirm all ground checks complete and we're cleared to pressurize the hydraulics.
All ground checks are complete and you are clear to pressurize the hydraulics.
Wonderful. Let's talk
Okay,
to
I will hold.
Let's talk to the passengers.
Good day, ladies and gentlemen, from the flight deck. This is the captain speaking. On behalf of the entire flight crew and myself, I'd like to welcome you aboard today's flight. Our flight attendants are there for your comfort, but more importantly for your safety, so please give them a few minutes of your undivided attention while they go over the safety features of this aircraft. Once the boarding process is complete, we'll get the cabin door closed and push off the gate for an on-time departure. In the meantime, please sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. Welcome aboard.
We can move the transponder into the auto position. Down here in the lower right corner, normally before we leave the gate, we're in the TA position. That's traffic advisory position. And then once we're away from the gate, we can move this into the TARA position. This is the traffic advisory and resolution action position. I don't know if RA stands for resolution action, but what this will do is it will if you run into a conflict situation with another aircraft, it'll physically take over your airplane and it'll maneuver out of the way of other traffic. But you want to leave it in TA for now, and then TARA once we're pushed away from the gate. One of the failings of Flight Simulator is that if I ask for a pushback through the controllers, it will go into its default pushback, and I don't want to use default. I want to use FS2 crew. So I'm gonna, when it gets to be that time, I'm going to request pushback. I'm gonna request pushback in a different way. So let's go to the initialization page, second page over. That looks all good. Performance page. We want to go to our takeoff calculator and get that information. Flaps 2, remember we want flaps 2 because we have an extra short runway. Usually flaps 1 would be enough, but because we have a short runway, we want flaps 2. And I'm going to go into the settings of FS2 crew, and I'm going to tell the settings we're using flaps 2, and our reference speeds are 117. And I forget what the third one was. Let's look at that third speed. 117, 117, 120. Okay, I believe that is correct. So, I forgot the reason why I wanted that performance calculator was for the stabilizer trim number. That is 1.0 up. So 2/1.0 up on the stabilizer trim. Oops, you got to spell correctly. Now let me demonstrate this. Because the information came over from SimBrief, I can import these numbers from SimBrief, but they're going to be, in my opinion, a little bit high, especially with this short runway. Now, just the fact that I'm entering lower numbers won't suddenly make the airplane perform better. It won't make the runway longer. It doesn't do any magic. But it will let the virtual first officer call our rotate at a speed before we run out of runway, which is always good. 120, okay, that's something I wanted. Transition altitude in the United States.
Are we cleared to close?
Yes.
Thanks. Let me know if you need anything.
Okay, we're cleared to close up.
Hi, it's Andy at L1. How can I help you?
Oops.
Cabin crew, arm slides and cross-check.
We are off of external power. And we look pretty good up here. Go to the doors. Display. All the doors are closed. Let's get our pushback. Again, I'm going to simulate this because I don't want to use the default MSFS pushback. Santa Barbara ground. United Forward Tree requests pushback and engine start. United Forward Tree, pushback and engine start approved. It's always nice that you get an approval when you do it yourself. Ground, we are ready for pushback and engine start.
Roger. Release the parking brakes, please.
Parking brakes off.
Push it back.
Okay, let's light them up. Great thing about the Airbus is that you can start both engines simultaneously. Also, I'm going to move the predictive wind shear to the auto position. Let's go to the engines page. Engines are coming up nicely.
Below the line.
Windows and doors.
Closed.
Closed. Beacon.
On.
Thrust levers.
Idle.
Are you sure about that? Parking brake.
Off.
Before start, checklist complete.
Pushback complete. Set parking brakes, please.
Parking brake set.
Roger. Okay, the tow bar is disconnected and the equipment is clear. We will see you in the left side with a pin.
Thanks, and you can disconnect and go to hand signals.
Thanks, have a good flight. See you later.
Starting engine 2. Starting engine 1. After start checklist.
Anti-ice.
Set.
ECAM status.
Check.
Pitch trim.
26% set.
Rudder trim.
0.
After start,
Once again,
checklist
ladies and
complete.
gentlemen, welcome on board our flight today. This is the lead flight attendant speaking. Please direct your attention to the cabin crew for important safety information. There is an instruction card in your seat pocket that illustrates the safety equipment on this aircraft.
Flight control check.
Require compliance with this information as
Full
well as
down.
all crew instructions, lighted information
Full up.
signs, and posted placards.
Neutral.
Fasten your seatbelt by inserting the metal tip into the buckle. Tighten by
Full
pulling
right.
on the belt. To release your
Full left.
seatbelt, lift the
Neutral.
metal flap
Rudder.
on the buckle. It is
Full
our
right.
policy that you keep your seatbelt
Full
fastened at
left.
all times
Neutral.
while needed.
And now we'll let the
Doors
first
are marked
officer
with
do her
exit signs
checks.
and instructions for door operation. Each door is equipped with an escape slide. Locate the exit nearest you. The nearest exit may be behind you. In an emergency, lights will illuminate the aisle. The cabin is pressurized. If there is a loss of cabin pressure, a panel will open and oxygen masks will appear. Remain seated with your seatbelt fastened and pull a mask towards you to start the flow of
Santa Barbara
oxygen.
Ground United
Oxygen
43
will be
begin
flowing to the
approach
mask
taxi
even though you
ILA.
may not inflate. Cover your nose and mouth with the mask, place the elastic band around your head, and tighten by pulling on the end. Secure your own mask before assisting others. Your seat bottom cushion may be used as a flotation device.
Well, it may have been kind of hard to hear, but we did get our taxi cams.
Place your arms around the cushion and hold on to the straps located on the back. This is a non-smoking flight.
Clear left side.
Smoking is
Clear
not
right side.
permitted in the cabin or lavatory.
Brake check.
Pressure
Cabin
0.
lights will now be turned off. Reading light buttons are located above your seat. Thank you for your attention.
Taxi to and hold short runway 25 using taxiway. Bravo Mount Gulf United 43.
Okay, now my challenge is to find runway 25. What I like to do is to go to my heading indicator and reference where 25 is. So here's 21. 25 is out here in this area to the right, which means I want to be down here in this southeasterly corner in relation to my aircraft off my left tail. So that means I need to turn right, and that will get me in the direction of 25. Thankfully, Santa Barbara is not a monster airport. If you find yourself at a monster airport and you're really confused about taxiing, in the real world you can always request what's called progressive taxiing, and that's where the ground controller will tell you turn by turn how to maneuver. I'm sure they don't necessarily like when you do that, but it is a service that they offer. These taxi markings are really challenging. Okay, this is 2.5. Oh, okay, I think I should be behind the whole short line. I don't know how I got beyond the whole short line. Boy, in the real world, that would not ever be good.
Santa Barbara Tower United 43 and runway 25 ready for takeoff IFR to San Francisco.
United 423 clear takeoff runway 25.
Look at all the snow covering the cars. I'm really loving this weather program.
Cleared for takeoff runway 25 United 43.
Before takeoff checklist.
Flight controls.
Check.
Check. Flight instruments.
Check.
Check. Briefing.
Confirm.
Flap setting.
Config 2.
Config 2. V1. VR. V2. Flex temp.
B1 117 BR 117 B2 120
V1 117 VR 117 V2 120 ATC.
set.
ECAM memo.
Takeoff. No blue.
Down to the line.
You know, I don't want to run pilot to ATC for air traffic control purposes, but one thing I did want to do is do a realistic brief, and I didn't do a brief. So I want to pull up our departure. And the great thing about pilot to ATC is it has an interface with the internet. If you live or if you fly in the United States, all the charts are available for free. You can go online and get these through the FAA or a number of other sources. But here in Pilot to ATC, choose TERPS, and it'll bring up this window. And then you can get any chart in the United States. So what I want to do is pull out a SID, a standard instrument departure for the Gouch 2. And I want to brief this. And I know this is sideways, but this is exactly how you would get it if it were in your flight bag. So you get, as a pilot, you get used to reading things that are sideways. So here we go. There's two ways of reading this, and it's good that you read both of them. So here's a number of runways. We want our runway 25. Climb on a heading of 255 to 520, then direct to grips, then on track 255 to grrr, then on track to 320 to cross Gouch at or above 6,000 feet, and you'll get ATC assigned altitude beyond that, no more than 10 minutes after departure. Now it's good to read that narrative, but it's even more important to get a visual picture in your mind of what you're going to be doing. So we're going to take off 255, which is almost due west, right over the ocean, right over the water. We're going to go to grips, we're going to go to grrr, and then we're going to turn right, which is north, to Gouch. And Gouch will be the end of the procedure. So that is our departure brief, and always good to do that. Sometimes, in addition to the departure brief, the pilot will choose an emergency scenario, such as a single engine or engine fire or medical emergency. I don't know whether sometimes there's always an emergency that gets briefed as well. But we did our brief, and we are better than average. Okay. Take landing lights on, turn off lights on, take off lights, wing light on, strobe light on. We are in Christmas tree mode. We can turn the APU off. We can also turn the engine mode selector to normal. And we can move the transponder to the TARA mode, and we can start the clock. We will be set.
Below the line.
Cabin crew, be seated for takeoff. Takeoff runway.
Confirmed.
Confirmed. Cabin crew.
Advised.
Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Pass.
On.
Before takeoff checklist complete.
We just informed the cabin crew we got a cabin ready light. We'll do a takeoff configuration button. And takeoff configuration is normal. We have flaps 2. And we have our takeoff clearance. We can go. We're doing a flex takeoff, so we don't want to move our throttles all the way to the toga position. This airplane is not turning very sharp. Just move our throttles into the flex position. Boy, I'm loving these visuals. So there's toga, and we just pull it off toga just a little bit. Here, I've lost power suddenly.
Ready.
Ready.
Takeoff. Main toga, SRS runway, autothrust blue.
Check. 100 knots.
Check.
V1. Rotate.
Gear up.
Gear up.
Flaps 1.
Speed check.
United 43 contact Santa Barbara departure on 120.
Flaps 1.
Flaps 0.
Speed check. Flaps 0.
Too low terrain. Too low terrain. Too low terrain. Too low
AP1.
terrain. Too low 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 terrain.
120.55 for United 43.
After takeoff, climb checklist.
Landing gear.
Up.
Flaps.
Retracting.
Pass.
On.
Down to the line.
Below the line.
Barrel ref.
Standard set.
Standard set. After takeoff checklist complete.
Santa Barbara departure United 43, climbing to 4,100 feet for 8,000 feet.
United 43 Santa Barbara departure continuous plan. Altimeter 29.50.
2,000 feet, United 43.
altimeter is 2950. That's why we're not registering at 8,000 feet on the controller's radar. Above 10,000 feet. Let's clean up the airplane. Landing lights off. Taxi lights off. runway just crossed 18,000 feet. Let's go to standard pressure.
Set standard.
Standard cross-check. Passing flight level 196.
United 43 contact Los Angeles Center on 124.15.
Now.
Check.
Going to 124.15, United 43. Los Angeles Center, United 43 is climbing to flight level 200 for flight level 200. United 43, Los Angeles Center, continuous clearance. Los Angeles Center, United 43. Request flight level 270. United 43 climb and maintain flight level 260. Expect flight level 270. Climb and maintain flight level 260. Expect flight level 270. United 43.
I'm getting a little hungry. You getting a little hungry?
Hi, Andy at L1. How can I help you?
Hi, could you bring us some water, please?
Okay, I'll bring the drinks up in a minute.
Hi guys, here are the drinks.
Thank you. Hi, could you bring us up a couple of crew meals, please?
Okay, I'll bring them up in a minute.
Hi guys, here are the crew meals you asked for. Enjoy!
Thank you.
These crew meals actually look pretty tasty. Why don't you take over the flying duties for a little bit?
You have control.
I have control.
Okay, well, I'm going to be a chauvinist pig because not only am I going to give you the flying duties, but I'm also going to not relieve you of the radio duties. And the reason for that is I don't want to take the time to go in and change the voice to a male voice. So you're going to be flying the plane and you're going to be working the radio. And all I have to do is sit over here and enjoy my crew meal. And we're a little early on the total climb, but I'm going to hit the seatbelt switch and let our riders get up and walk around a little bit. Mildly surprised we didn't need any anti-ice for that climb out, but we might need it when we get to San Francisco. Although if you remember, the weather, didn't we say the weather looked slightly better in San Francisco?
United 43 contact Los Angeles Center on 119er, schedule 05. 119er, decimal 05, United 43.
At Zoom, AOC menu, received messages. Here's the TAF for Santa Barbara. Here's the TAF for San Francisco. From 2721 to 2824, winds 060 at 5 knots. Visibility 6 statute miles, few clouds at 3,000 scattered, 3,500 scattered, flight level 200. Then a little later time frame, 090 at 5. So low visibility, but not much wind. Here's the METAR. Wind 040 at 4 knots, very light wind. 10 statute miles, few clouds at 2,800, scattered 3,500, temperature 13, dew 0.8. The closer these numbers are, the more fog is likely. The further apart these numbers are, the less fog is likely. The higher the pressure, the clearer the skies. The lower the pressure, the more cloudy the skies. So these numbers are pretty far apart, so not much fog, but this altimeter setting goes along with these low clouds. One thing about being a pilot is that you suddenly become an amateur meteorologist. I wonder why KSFO is there, but none of our approach. Did I make the mistake of not loading the approach into the McDo? Let's take a look. I may have made that mistake. Flight plan. I don't think I loaded the approach into the McDo. Interesting. 28 right. We want the Surfer arrival. Archie transition is fine. Insert. Archie via Archie is fine. So gnarly, waves, epic. Somebody who made up these waypoint names was having a lot of fun. Look at these waypoint names. Surfer, gnarly, waves, epic, Follet. I'm going to call that Follet like it's French. Archie, Zeal, grrr. Okay, so let's... always want to put your flight plan through what's called the common sense test. You want to make sure it looks reasonable. And there's something that doesn't look reasonable right away. That Follet looks like a bad waypoint. So I'm going to go into the flight plan. And I'm going to find that Follet. I'm going to clear it out. There's Follet. So push clear. Then Follet. Insert. Now let's look at this flight plan and see if it looks more logical. Surfer, gnarly, waves, epic, and that's much more logical profile. Go into Arch. Now, you say, oh, we must have forgotten that during the pre-flight. That's actually not true. It's actually very common to take off with just a departure frequency and finish the approach in the air. And the reason for that is, of course, it's obvious. Winds can change, and weather can change, and even now, we might end up having to go back in and change the approach. So taking off without a full approach in the McDo is very common.
Oakland Center, United, 43 flight level 260.
next waypoint is Surfer.
Climb and maintain flight level 270.
Climb and maintain flight level 270 United 43.
So let's go to our terps.
United 43, contact Oakland Center on 126.9.
For United 43. Oakland Center, United 43, flight level 270.
United 43, Oakland Center, continuous clear.
So here's the Surfer 4 arrival. We got rid of Foley, so here's Epic, Waves, Gnarly. I'm sorry, I'm reading this backwards. Surfer, Gnarly, Waves, Epic, and then onward. So from Surfer, track 314 to cross Gnarly, at or above flight level 200 at 280 knots. Then on track 313 to cross Waves between 15,000 and flight level 190 at 280 knots. Then on track 333 cross Epic between 10,000 and 15,000 feet at 280 knots. And then Foley above 8,000 at 240 knots. Okay, so that's our approach. And here is our, that's our star, standard arrival route. And 28 right is our approach. 1117 is on the nav frequency at a course of 284. We don't have to worry about that so much because that's all in the McDo. What we do want to worry about is this number right here. This is called the MDA, or minimum descent altitude. Under no circumstances do we want to be below the minimum descent altitude unless we have the ILS system operating, vertical and horizontal guidance, and we have the runway environment in sight. So that's what we got out of the charts, and that is our approach briefing. So let's go back to our arrival. For right now, that's the most important. This is Surfer 4 arrival. There's Gnarly. We want to be at Gnarly at 200, crossing at 200 altitude. So we need to descend.
United 43, contact Oakland Center on 127.45.
Going to 127.45 United 43. Center, United 43. Request flight level 200.
United 43 descend and maintain flight level 200.
I have control.
You have control.
Let's do a descent briefing.
Approach checklist.
Briefing.
Confirmed.
ECAM status.
Checked.
Barrel ref.
2992. Set.
2992. Set. Minimum.
Set.
Set. Engine mode selector.
Normal.
Approach checklist complete.
Let's get our temperature. Temperature 13. Winds. Uh, 040 at 4. Transition altitude 18,000. Decision height is 200. Configure 3 and full. Okay.
Cabin crew, prepare for arrival.
Next is waves. We want to be at waves between flight level 150 and 190.
Descend and maintain 14,000 feet. Expect ILS runway 28 left approach 58 transition. Clear to failure. United 43 descend and maintain 6,000 feet.
We've just been given 6,000 feet. We've also been given a change of runway to 28 left. We were expecting 28 right. Again, something that you might encounter in the real world.
United 43 descend and maintain 6,000 feet.
So we need to go into the McDo and tell it our change.
Descend and maintain 6,000 feet. Expect ILS runway 28 left approach 58 transition. Clear to fade United 43.
Okay, we were expecting 28 right. Now we change over to 28 left. Still Archie, still Surfer. Okay. In that regard, not much has changed. I think we're all looking good right here. Oh, we got that full lay back. We don't want that full lay, remember? It gave us some grief. Did I get rid of it? Waves, epic.
Two, 992, set.
2992, set. Passing 16,700. Now,
We're below
check.
transition altitude. So we changed over to local pressure. Okay, got rid of that full A, that's good. We're heading for epic, where we need to be between 10,000 feet and 15,000 feet. Anti-ice. Ice detected. So let's get engine 2, engine 1, and wing anti-ice on. We're going to be below 10,000 here very soon, so I'm going to go into Christmas tree mode. Turn on all the lights in the castle. Epic was 10,000 to 15,000 feet, so we are within our margin, but we're a little bit on the high side. Maybe we want to increase our vertical descent by a little bit. Maybe that not that much of a little bit. Still want to keep our speed. When we get below 10,000 feet, remember there's a 250 knot speed limit. Getting close to 10,000 feet, I'm going to advise the cabin.
Just to let you know, we'll be starting our descent shortly.
Thanks for letting me know.
That's not what I wanted to do.
Ladies and gentlemen, once again from the flight deck, this is the captain speaking. We're going to begin our initial descent here momentarily. At this time, I'm going to turn the seatbelt sign back on, so please return your seats and keep your seatbelts securely fastened until the aircraft has come to a stop at the V8 and the seatbelt sign has been turned off. It's been our pleasure having you on board for today's flight, and we hope to see you back on the future flight again real soon. Flight attendants, please prepare the cabin for arrival.
Flight or video monitors inside the terminal for connecting gate information. For your continued safety, flight attendants will now walk through the cabin to secure it for landing. We'll be collecting all service items, newspapers, and any other items you wish to discard or may not be taking off the aircraft with you. Also, in preparation for landing, please turn off all electronic devices, stow these devices, and all other carry-on items. Please use caution when opening overhead bins as items may have...
I had to slow our rate of descent because we were busting that 250 knot speed limit.
Check the security of your seatbelt. We will be landing shortly. Thank you.
Next is Archie. Archie is not in the procedure. But Epic is. Oh, Epic. The good thing I didn't do is turn on this constraints button, because the constraints button will help you follow the data block that goes along with each one of the waypoints. Yeah, I should have done that earlier. Also, turned on the flight director and the landing systems. You'd also want to turn on the landing systems on your backup attitude indicator. We're approaching 6,000 feet, so we'll level off. Our speed will slow considerably. I'm going to bring our speed down even further. We are a very slippery airplane, and one of the things I have a problem with is speed control. I'm often coming into airports too hot, too high, and too fast. That's one of my personal failings I'm going to try to work on. Might even call it a New Year's resolution. Snowy Bay Area, snowy Oakland, California. Very rare sight indeed. Well, it's a little bit of a challenge having a last-minute runway change. So 26 left is the new one, correct? Make sure. Or 28 left. 28 left. There it is. Frequency is slightly different. The approach course is just very slightly different. Still 1,800 feet minimum descent altitude. This is a Cat 2. I believe 28 right was a Cat 3. Cat 2 has to do with the capability of the airplane and the capability of the airport. Mostly from an airport point of view, it's about the lighting, what different types of lighting they have. Whether it's Cat 2 or Cat 3. Tuna 190 is very low in the speed threshold, just above stall speed. When we add our first notch of flaps, that will actually bring us more into the... Oh, look at the ice. Bringing our first notch of flaps, that'll bring us more into our speed envelope.
Flaps 1.
Speed check. Flaps 1.
At this point, we should start receiving some radio guidance from our Instrument Landing System, or ILS. Radio frequencies coming up from the ground to give us lateral guidance and glide slope guidance. I don't see them yet. I'm going to turn on the localizer capture button. So if and when we do get localizer information, the navigation will capture it. That's left to right guidance. There's the airport, just ahead of us and off to the right. Oh, yes, okay, we're starting. We just picked up the signal. KSFO.
United 43 descent at maintaining 6,000 feet. Descend and maintain 6,000 feet. United 43.
Flaps 2.
Speed check. Flaps 2.
One great thing about the Airbus is that once you are within the flap range of the first flap setting, the aircraft will check your speed to make sure that a flaps deployment is correct And then once you've made that flaps deployment, it'll put you in line, the little equal sign, for your next flaps deployment. Just kind of walks you through the flap deployment process. When we get to Ponky, our next waypoint, we should be intercepting that localizer, that left to right guidance. And then we'll be looking for our up and down guidance, which is called the glide slope. And in a Boeing, you would set up for an auto land condition. In my opinion, Boeing and Airbus have different philosophies. Airbus is designed to use the automation. Matter of fact, to go into auto land, you don't actually do anything. You just fly it as you normally would, and an auto land occurs unless you disengage it. But a Boeing airplane is meant to be hand flown. It of course does have automation, but it's just a different philosophy. And I'm always a bit ham-fisted. Oh, there's our glide slope. I'm gonna go into the approach mode, and I'm gonna try to engage both autopilots and see if they'll engage. Nope, not quite yet. Once we get capture on the localizer and the glide slope, we'll try to engage the second autopilot, and we'll let the Airbus do an auto land, which will control our flare and control our rollout. One thing I want to do is I want to set up the auto brakes, medium auto brakes, and I also want to arm the spoilers, or speed brakes. Let's go to flaps 3.
Gear down.
Oh, gear down. Down to 4,000.
Descend and maintain 4,000 feet. United 43.
We'll bleed off a little more airspeed. We'll go into manage speed mode. Here comes the localizer. Let's see if I can get that second autopilot up. Not quite yet. There's localizer capture. There's glide slope capture.
Flaps 3.
Speed check. Flaps 3.
And then the last setting for flaps is flaps full.
Flaps full.
Speed check.
Flaps full.
Cabin crew, be seated for landing.
And I believe you don't necessarily have to have both autopilots to do an auto landing, but I know it's possible for them both to be engaged.
checklist.
Cabin crew.
Advised.
Auto thrust.
Speed.
Auto brake.
Low.
ECAM memo.
Landing. No blue.
Landing checklist complete.
Tower on 120.5, United 4 tree. San Francisco Tower United 4 tree 12 miles southeast inbound ILS runway 28 left approach. Tower on 120.5, United 4 tree. Cleared ILS runway 28 left approach. Altimeter 29.5, 6 with 2, 81
She's reporting wind at 281 at 39er. I'm showing wind from 296 at 23. Either way, that's a very strong headwind. It's actually really lined up with the runway. You know, we're in the Airbus, of course, and we're doing an auto land, so the airplane is taking care of a lot of it, but and thankfully it is pretty much right down the center of the runway, but that's a strong headwind.
United 4 tree, did you copy? Cleared ILS runway 28 left approach, United 4 tree.
Checked.
Decision height is 200 feet AGL. I think the runway is only at 13 feet above sea level, so it's 213 would be decision height. Minimum descent altitude is, remember, 1,800. It was correct, right? 1,800? Yes, 1,800. We certainly have the landing environment. And notice when I go to the other autopilot, it's not showing exactly the same information. Notice I go to the other autopilot, it says, well, in that case it is the same, but for a bit it was showing slightly different. It was showing a climb thrust. So if both autopilots agree, it'll allow you to have both of them on. The thing, I believe, without both of them on, you don't get the flare and the rollout control automatically.
Clear to land runway 28 left. 127 the 34. Clear to land runway 28 left United 4 tree.
See, notice I got thrust climb and the glide slope indication. Look at that snow. Snow in San Francisco.
Checked. Continue.
Oh, there we go. We got the land indication. So I believe we are going to get rollout and flaring rollout.
Minimum.
All I need to worry about is retarders. Continue.
100. 50. 40. 30. 20. 10. Recharge. 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 Recharge.
Speed brakes didn't deploy.
Recharge. 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 Recharge.
No spoilers. No reverse engine 1 and 2. Decel.
Recharge. 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 Recharge.
Well, that wasn't pretty, folks.
Recharge.
But for what it was, I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry we didn't get to taxi to the gate. Well, I tell you what. If you happen to have parked your car in this lot, we have perfect parking for you. Have a great night or day or whatever time it is for you folks, and I'm glad you're with me on this flight.
Recharge.
United 43, did you hear my last transmission?